Okay, this is Mia Rosenthal for Tyler Visual Studies Digital Imaging, and I'm going to do a demo for layer masks. And two examples, one working with images and one working with adjustment layers. And a layer mask is a way of editing an image and having it stay editable so that your changes are not permanently affecting the layer. And for my first example, I have my image here of a frog, and I'm going to take this image of a flower and paste it on the frog. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the background, everything except for this stem and the first two petals and the bug and the little center of this flower here. So now, if I just go in, let's say with my eraser tool, let's say make a big eraser, and okay, I start erasing it. Oops, I made a mistake. I can go into my history panel and undo, but if I've done something else, I can't ever go back and change this. This erasure is a permanent part of the image. So let me go back. But if I go under layer mask, reveal all will keep my, let me see my whole image. Hide all will start with it hidden. So I'll pick reveal all. If I work with a layer mask, I can add or subtract from the layer at any time without permanently affecting the layer. So you can see here, linked together is my layer mask. It starts off all white, which means I can see the entire image. Now I have many ways to erase or add on to my layer mask. If I go to my eraser tool, I can start erasing. Okay, there it goes. That's one way. Now you can see here I have the white in the foreground and the black in the background. If I hit the X key, it will switch those around. You can see now with the eraser tool, I'm adding onto my layer mask. So if I hit the back and forth, it's working with positive and negative, not necessarily the importance of which tool you're using. So let's say here's my brush tool. I can be erasing. My black is in the foreground, white in the background. If I hit X again, I'm adding on to it. I can also take the rectangular marquee tool, make a selection, hit the delete key. It's gonna, all right, so you can see I have many options here. Maybe to get this nice crisp part of the stem, I'll pick my polygon lasso tool and maybe and hit delete. You know, maybe I can kind of use I can also use my polygon lasso tool to just kind of make a general selection around the parts I want to keep. Okay, now if I hit delete, oops, I deleted the exact wrong part of what I wanted to do. So if I go back a few steps here, if I do select inverse, that will pick the opposite of what I have selected. Command D to deselect or select deselect. Okay, now maybe for another area, maybe I want to use my pen tool to make a path. So maybe for this petal, I'm going to make a nice sort of smooth curve selection. I can go to pen tool and make a path for this part. Okay, now if I want to turn my path into a selection, I'm going to go into my Paths panel, which is also under Window Paths, and if I click the circle that has the dotted line around it, that will turn my path into a selection. So if I hit delete, there it is. Now let's say I wanted this selection to be a little bit softer. I have a few options for doing this. I can go back to where I just have this selection, and if I go under Select Modify and choose Feather, and maybe just pick a few pixels, in this case maybe I can do 5, maybe even fewer, 3 to make it a pretty shallow feather. And if I hit delete, you can see now it's just a little bit softer. I can also, let's say for part of this, I have the green, that's the background behind the insect here. I can use the, let's say the magic wand tool, zoom in so I can see what I'm doing a little better. So let's say this selection looks pretty good, but maybe I want to expand it by a few pixels. Hit delete. Now I have a pretty decent selection around there. Do this a few more times. I can always increase the tolerance if I want to, you know, select more. Now in this case here, now I kind of got rid of the antenna when I was making that selection, but I can always go in. I'll kind of make a small, sort of maybe pretty firm brush, and I'll hit X to switch this around, and I can sort of put this antenna back in and erase from it. You know, I can go back and forth fairly frequently just hitting the X key whether I'm adding or deleting to my layer mask. Can maybe, you know, I can, don't be afraid to like zoom in really high, work with a fairly small brush. And then I can kind of also use it to smooth out. The magic wand tool has a tendency to make kind of harsher selections where you can really see like the pixels around the selection. So it tends to be a little maybe messier than some other choices, but I can just sort of use it to make the basic selection. Then I can always kind of go in and you know, smooth it out a little bit. So for complicated selections, you're really going to end up you know, spending a decent amount of time making them. So okay, so this looks about half done. Maybe I'll say that my flower is going to be here in the foreground. And I would want to go in and continue selecting this out, but for now we'll just leave it as is. And let's say I'm going to do an adjustment layer to maybe just increase the vibrancy of this orange part of the insect that's on the flower. So to do that, I'm going to go under my adjustment panel, and to select hue saturation, I'm going to want to make sure that clip to layer and add mask by default are selected if I'm using my adjustments panel. Or I can go into layer, new adjustment layer, hue saturation, and make sure that use previous layer to create clipping mask is checked. So I'm going to increase my saturation here, and that looks pretty good. And you can see I automatically have a layer mask there, and that's because I selected to use the previous layer as a clipping mask. So now what I'm going to do is I want to delete everything or erase everything except my insect from my layer mask. I want to make sure that the actual layer mask is what's selected here. And see, I've got a pretty big brush. And I can just delete everything or erase everything except my insect. So there we go. So now you can see as I turn the layer on and off, just the insect is turning on and off.